So, good morning. My name is Karen Thames from the Business Network in Central and East Lancashire, and I'm proud to sponsor Business Bites with business leaders in conjunction with Lisa Edge of Lancashire and GBTV. Today, we're chatting with Peter Ray of APW Financial Planning. Good morning, Peter. How are you?
Good morning, Karen. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thank you.
Good.
And looking forward to our chat. Um, One of the things that you can help me clear up straight away is I wonder if you could tell me what the difference is between financial advice and financial planning.
Certainly. Financial advice, I would say, generally tends to revolve around products and money, which you could say, well, it's financial. But financial planning is more to do with someone's life. So it's what somebody finds important to them, what they enjoy doing, what they enjoy spending their time on, who they enjoy spending the time with. And so the financial planning is more about using the money as a tool, because it's the old analogy of when a workman comes round to your house, he's not going to wax lyrical about the brand new hammer that he's just bought. You would expect that he knows how to use a hammer. However, what you would expect him to do is to do what you've asked him to do. So that might be, say, resolve a problem if he's, say, a plumber and you've got a leak. Well, that in a way is what a financial planner does in making sure that somebody is going to be in the best financial position and is going to be okay. Equally, it could be building an extension, again going back to the workman, so that then gives people opportunities. They might have a new room that they can then use for different things than they had previously, and in the same way a financial planner can then explore again what opportunities that they might have. So they may never have thought, well actually, when would you like to retire? Well, I'm going to retire at 65. Well, had you realised that actually you were in a financial position that you could retire at age 60 or age 57 or something like that? And that then suddenly, the light bulb then goes on and they think, oh, I didn't realise that I actually had other options than just going down the route that I'd always thought I needed to go down. So that really, in a nutshell, is the difference between financial advice, which in a way is putting people's money almost in separate boxes, and the financial planning, which is looking at the overall financial picture and planning what they may do now, but also, a long time in the future.
Well, thank you. That makes perfect sense to me. It's almost about the personal story, isn't
It
it?
is. It is absolutely, yes.
Yeah, lovely. I can resonate with that very, very well. Thank you. So, what was your first personal experience of financial planning?
Well, actually, it goes back now, actually 40 years. In that my dad was an accountant and my mum was a stay-at-home housewife, so she dealt with the usual thing of cooking and cleaning and looking after us both. However, my dad had a long-standing heart condition and angina and other things like that, which meant that he actually part of that was due to him smoking woodbines for many years, which the traditional name for them is coffin nails. And so when I was 12, he went in for an operation, for a heart bypass operation, and unfortunately he didn't survive.
Very sad.
So suddenly my mum now not only had to organise the cooking and the cleaning, she now was responsible for the house, she was responsible totally for me, and she had no idea about finances. She couldn't even write a cheque at that stage. Fortunately, my dad was well connected. He was a JP, he was chairman of magistrates, he was chairman of various committees, and he knew three professionals. He knew an accountant, he knew a solicitor, and he knew a financial planner. And particularly the financial planner was vital in those very early days, in that he advised my mum, he explained all the whys and wherefores, and basically he set us up then to have the life that we were able to have for the rest of my mum's life, and equally, I'm still benefiting from it to this day. So at what was a very vulnerable time, a very emotional time, he in a way took all the burden of the money side off us and allowed us to go through the grieving process, knowing that he was a professional, he was going to do the best for us. And so that really was my first experience of financial planning, which obviously set us as a family in very good stead for the future. We didn't have an extravagant life, I can assure you, but we had sufficient to allow us to live much better than we would have done if we'd have just tried to sort of muddle through on our own.
So that experience of your mum being in a very vulnerable position spurred you on to want to help people who may be in her position at some stage.
Yes, yeah, that's right. I always had at the back of my mind that I wanted to help people after having that experience. However, it took me quite a few years to actually finally join the financial planning profession. Financial advice profession.
So tell me, how did that happen then? How did you get into financial planning?
Well, I always had the idea that I would do something with numbers, with maths, because that had always been my forte.
And especially with your dad being an accountant.
That's right. Although I always had the impression that accountants were very boring, and having met some through the business network and in other areas, I now have a completely different impression, and I realise that they are anything but boring. But this was the impression that I had at one stage. So I decided, right, accountancy is out. So I thought, well, what about insurance? So I joined the Co-op Insurance Society in Manchester as a graduate, initially in the non-life claims department, which was to do with household and car motor claims, and then I had the opportunity to join the computer department, which allowed me to, in a way, learn all about the nitty-gritty behind a lot of the different types of policies that the Co-op offered. But I realised that it was all very well. I'd always had an interest in computers and maths, as I said, but it's a different thing when you're doing it as a job rather than as a hobby. And I thought, really, do I fancy doing this for the next 30 years? I'm not sure. So it got to 2000, and by that stage I've been able to save up some money. So I thought, right, I've had enough. So I left the CIS, and I gave myself purposely some time to then think about what I actually wanted to do. And I then had I think I probably did one of those psychometric tests that sort of said, what do you have a forte for? And it came up with, again, helping people and numbers and whatever. And I thought, well, actually, I've always had a financial advisor. What about if I actually became a financial advisor? Because that seemed to tick a lot of the boxes. So I sent off 70 copies of my CV. And
that's determination, Peter.
That's determination. And I think I had about maybe a dozen replies. A lot of people didn't respond. I had one interview, and that was the person who I actually ended up joining initially in Penwortham, and then we went through various sort of iterations of the team really for the next dozen or so years. So that was my lead in. So I've worked in financial services all my working life, and I've been a financial advisor for the last 20 years.
So tell me, how did APW Financial Planning emerge?
Well, as I say, I started with one team who went through various iterations, but it was the team I was with was very much a classic financial advice business, in that we listened to clients, we found out what they needed, we then provided totally compliant, proper, suitable advice, but it was very much putting things in boxes rather than really looking at clients' overall situation. And I had a sort of epiphany moment in 2012, because I'd read quite a lot of financial newspapers, and a guy called Paul Oimson had cropped up a few times. And what he said really resonated with me. So I did some more digging, and he did an online course, and so I thought, this is the direction that I want to go. I don't want to just look at things in isolation, and I want to help people to have ultimately a better life overall. And I had a word with my fellow partners in the business, and initially I sort of did my own thing within the business, but I realised that just wouldn't work, because I was doing something very different to them. So I then took the plunge, and I said, okay, sorry, I need to leave. So initially, I worked within another financial planning firm, but because I'd been self-employed for 12 years, and now I was just a worker within a team, it was a very different sort of mentality. When you're used to making your own decisions, and suddenly you've got to run them by somebody, and you've got to follow their process and whatever. It's so in a way, I actually learnt an awful lot from my nearly 2 years with that company, but I realised that actually I was better on my own. I could then make my own decisions. I could do it the way that I wanted to do, and so APW Financial Planning was born in December 2016. Initially, it was just me, and then my wife Catherine came on board in August 2017. So we are very much a family firm. As anybody who works in financial advice and financial planning will understand, we have a lot of support externally, so we make use of other companies, yes, and other businesses to make sure that we keep on the straight and narrow and do things correctly. But in terms of the day-to-day running of the company, it's myself and Catherine.
And in the last 4 years, have you ever looked back?
I think when you are totally responsible for every aspect of the business, the seeing of clients hasn't changed. That's so I continue to go out to see clients. I enjoy that. That's the bit that in a way gives you the buzz, because you feel as though you're making a difference to somebody's life.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of the admin side and the regulatory side, which sometimes does seem very onerous, and particularly onerous for what is a very small company, because inevitably these regulations have got to go from one-man bands all the way up to companies that have thousands of people in them, and a recent iteration, you sort of think, well, in a way, how does this apply to me? But it's almost sort of a square peg into a round hole sometimes, yeah. And so yes, everything is done, everything is compliant, but I think that side is probably the area that has been something of a culture shock. But again, it's something you realise it's something you've got to do. That ultimately it is for everybody's benefit, because they want to put restrictions on who you've got to have a certain level of qualifications to be a financial advisor. Right. You've got to have certain rules and regulations that you've got to abide by. And ultimately, it's not only for our benefit who are in the professional, but most importantly, it's for the safety of the clients and the people who we work with and for. So that's I think has been the major change that I've noticed now running my own company.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously very important. I can see how people trust you in terms of their planning journey. And I think you may have mentioned in the past when you're not being incredibly wonderful with numbers and planning, helping people to plan, that your hobby is very much around music. You enjoy musicals, and indeed you yourself are very musical. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. I've played the piano since I was 3. I was picking out tunes that I'd picked up from school, and I think my dad said, "Who's that playing the piano?" And my mum said, "Oh, it's Peter. He's been playing that for the last week or so." So that then I had lessons and I went through various exams,
Yeah.
but now I play it very much for my own amusement, and I enjoy singing as well. And in the current sort of lockdown scenario that we're in, I know there are a lot of virtual choirs that have taken up. So I'm one of the 140,000 strong Great British Home Chorus, which is being run by Gareth Malone.
Oh, wow.
So we meet every day at 5:30, and we have a rehearsal, and it's on the one hand, it seems very strange when you think about it that you're in your own office or whatever singing to Gareth's playing, and you're thinking, well, how can you get the corporate atmosphere? But it's surprising, you actually do. You do feel part of something much bigger. And I know there are thoughts that at some stage we may come together and do a concert live, which
That is.
would be fantastic. I wonder where would be quite big enough. But
Oh.
yeah, music has always been a big part of my life, and something that I really enjoy both playing and listening to as well.
That's absolutely amazing. What a fabulous way to end the working day by having a good sing-a-thon. That's incredible. And Peter, you're a really good example of using your whole brain. Numbers are very typically left brain activity, and your music is very right brain, which is fantastic. And I'm sure that one encourages and sparks off the other. So, just as we're coming to a close, if you had one piece of advice to maybe somebody who wanted to set out into financial planning and financial services industry, what would that advice be?
I think it really stems from when I sent off my 70 copies of the CV. The people who responded generally said you need to show your commitment to the profession. So it's fine that you've seen it from a client side, but you need to prove that you've gone that extra step. So what I would say is, if you are really committed, then there are various exam bodies that you can take exams with. So
Yeah.
I would say have a go at a couple of one or a couple of the exams. For one thing, that will then tell you whether it really is something that you are committed to without totally going down the line. But equally, if it is, then you have something that shows that you've taken the initiative yourself, rather than just saying, okay, here I am, I'm a wonderful person, I want to join your firm, but I know I've no background in it. But by taking those just a couple of exams, most of them tend to be multiple choice, so they're not they're not too complicated. Some of the content is a little bit drier than others. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
But yeah, I think if you show commitment, get experience. If you have the opportunity of maybe working for a couple of weeks in a financial planning firm, then even better, because then you might be able to get experience of the different facets of the profession, because there's the customer facing side,
Yes.
or there's the technical side, or there's the
Yep.
purely administration side, and you may find that actually you lean towards one rather than the other. So that's what I would say. Get a couple of exams if you haven't done already, and then you show a lot more willing than just you going in with nothing at all.
That sounds like very good advice. So demonstrate your commitment, learn
That's right,
something about it, and
absolutely.
then go in there and get started and see where your talents lie. That's fantastic. Thank you. Peter, you've been a member now at the Business Network for 2 years. I'm absolutely delighted about that. You're a fabulous member. You are very generous with your experience and your expertise, and I do thank you for that. And I look forward to having the opportunity to work with you for a long time to come. Peter Ray of APW Financial Planning, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Thank you, Karen.